Dear Editor, Vermilion News, thinking you might be glad to pay a last tribute of respect to a former resident of your town, I take the liberty of subjoining a brief sketch of Lester A. Pelton, who passed away at his home at 827 Grove Street, Saturday, March 14, 1908. He was the only son of the late Allen Pelton, long a well-known and highly respected citizen of Vermilion Township. In the spring of 1850, when the gold fever of 1849 was at its height, Lester Pelton, Henry Roeder, Levi A. Pelton, Henry Hewitt, and 8 other young men of Vermilion caught the fever and made the preparations to go together as a party the great distance to California. The journey was overland, long, and full of the hardships incident to that early period, much of it being made on foot. The writer recalls listening to many recitals of the perils along the way, the scarcity of food, when very small rations were dealt out every morning with the hope of eking out their scanty store until more could be obtained. When the finding of a dead buffalo was an important event, the meat that had dried upon the bones was sliced off and helped much to sustain the men during the latter part of the journey. The party, though spent and worn, was eager to push on to the gold fields, around which so many high hopes had been built. Here the party became more or less scattered. Lester Pelton engaged in mining in Yuba and Sarah counties, afterwards following the vocation of millwright, superintending the building of many mills in the section. During his experience, he saw the need of great water power, and to this end he turned his attention, and in 1878 he commenced his experiments which resulted in the famous Pelton water wheel, so outdistancing every other invention of its class as to make a worldwide name for itself. In 1895, the Elliott Cresson Gold Medal was awarded to Mr. Pelton for his valuable invention by the Franklin Institute of Philadelphia. Some idea of the extensive use of these wheels may be gained from the fact that in 1892, over 11,000 were in use in various parts of the world, in mines, manufactories, and other industries. At the present time, there are thousands more in use. Mr. Pelton's health became impaired, and a number of years ago sold his invention to a San Francisco firm which manufactures the wheels on a large scale. Being a man of reserved and studious habits, he devoted his leisure to such pursuits as pleased him, like reading or working, in his perfectly equipped workshop, which he lad fitted up in the basement of his home. Here he was often found working happily over some labor-saving device for the pure pleasure of being occupied. The friends who knew him best valued his steadfast friendship and his perfect integrity. He was a man of dignified manner and appearance and was always glad to visit with his friends, especially any old 49er. He remarked to the writer only a few days before his death that he was the last one of the 12 who came to California together 58 years ago. He did not seem to realize that he was so soon to join the band over there. The funeral services were held at his late home Monday, March the 6th, the Reverend Charles Brown of Oakland officiating. In closing, he gave Tennyson's beautiful poem, Sunset and Evening Star, and One Clear Call for Me, and may there be no moaning of the bar when I put out to sea, twilight and evening bell, and after that the dark, and may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark, for though from out our bourne of time and place the flood may bear me far, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar. A large number of friends followed him to the beautiful columbarium, where, as he requested, his body was incinerated. Later, the urn containing his ashes will be sent to Vermilion for interment with the other members of his family, who rest in the cemetery there. Mr. Pelton's only surviving sister, Mrs. Henry Wagner, resides in Cleveland, Ohio. Mrs. Fannie A. Stowe, his eldest niece, is a resident of Oakland, California. Mrs. Ruth Simon and Nelson D. Wagner, niece and nephew of Mr. Pelton, also live in Cleveland. Thanking you for giving this notice room. In your paper, I am very truly Francis M. Pelton, Oakland, California, March 18, 1908.
Lester Allen Pelton, considered to be the father of modern-day hydroelectric power, was born in Vermilion Township, Erie County, Ohio, on September 5, 1829. His grandfather, Captain Josiah Pelton, located with his family in Vermilion around the year 1818, where the family prospered and became comparatively wealthy. There were 7 other children in the family: Sylvester A., Austin, Franklin, Phoebe, Charlotte, Lucy, and Alan, who eventually married Fanny Cuddyback. Alan and Fanny were Lester's parents. Over the years, all the Pelton descendants, in one way or another, played prominent parts in the development of the village of Vermilion, incorporated in 1837, in various capacities, both in business and government. Although family members would eventually own various parcels of land throughout the township and village proper, all, including Lester, started life on the Pelton homestead in Vermilion Township. Lester attended the Cuddyback School, a one-room schoolhouse on the southwest corner of Risdon and West Shore Roads, about a mile west of the village. But little more than this is known about his life and formative years in Vermilion. In the spring of 1850, when Lester was about 20 years old, he, along with Henry Roeder, Levi A. Pelton, Henry Hewitt, William and David Johnson, Charles Parker, and several other young men headed for gold country in California. Some say that along the way, they worked as sheep herders to help them pay their way. Others say they went by wagon train. More to the truth of the matter, they most likely did both, and a whole lot more. Arriving in California, Pelton separated with his friends and went to Sacramento, where he peddled fish to miners. After hearing that digging gold in the Sierra Nevada mountains was more profitable, he moved some 90 miles north to Camptonville in Yuba County along the Yuba River. This was in 1860. All types of mining were going on there: placer, hard rock, and hydrologic. Although Lester was not terribly interested in mining, he was an avid reader, and he enjoyed watching the mining efforts. A very introspective person, he was also a skilled tinsmith, carpenter, and millwright. At the time, steam engines powered most of the mining works. As the story is told, one day he was chasing a stray cow from his landlady's yard in Camptonville. He hit the cow on the nose with water, and the water split, circled the cow's nostrils, and came out at the outer edge. This observation is said to have given him an idea. He went home and began to draw a water wheel with split metal cups. These are the drawings Pelton made for the U.S. Patent Office of his wheel and its parts. Included is an explanation of the wheel in his own words. So, this is, most simplistically, the way the Pelton runner, water turbine, was conceived of and then invented. The runner was first used at the Mayflower Mine in Nevada City, California in 1878. In 1887, a miner attached Pelton's wheel to a dynamo and produced the first hydroelectric power in the Sierra Nevada mountains. On August 27, 1889, the invention was officially patented, and by 1893, the age of hydroelectric power was in full swing. It has proven to be one of the, if not the most efficient inventions in mining and the production of hydroelectric power in our world.
Hello, Vermilion from Cercedia, where I'm standing in front of a Pelton wheel. You know, the wheel that was designed by the Vermilion-born inventor Lester Allen Pelton. And here it is in the town where I live in Spain. And apparently it's one of the only versions of this Pelton wheel that's still in working order. It hasn't been used since the 70s, but it was put into place in 1935, I think, something like that. And it supplied electricity to all of the town where I live now. And here they've even built a model of it, so you can see what would be inside there. And this is it here. So I'm going to push the button. So water comes through, starts turning, and then the turbine that's on the other side, the alternator, starts creating electricity. You see the alternator there. And you can see the shape that makes it a Pelton wheel. So anyway, what do you think of that? Guy from Vermilion moved to the mountains of Madrid only to find himself with the invention of a Vermilion-born inventor, Lester Pelton. And there's the big one. There's the real thing. Inside that metal case. There's the tubes. Okay.
The old water wheel is the precursor to modern Pelton turbines. Wood water wheels have been used to extract power from flowing water and convert it into mechanical power since the 3rd century. Often, water wheels provided power for water mills, which used millstones for grinding wheat to produce flour. The rotational movement of the water wheel spun the runner stone of the mill by means of a gear unit. The opening in the middle of the runner stone is called eye, where the grains were filled in two. As the runner stone turned, the grains were being cut and crushed by the stones that turned the grains into flour. The water wheel has long been replaced by the Pelton turbine for several reasons. Because of their clever design, Pelton wheels are far more efficient than water wheels of the past. The rotational movement of the turbine is usually transmitted to a generator, converting kinetic energy into electrical energy. A series of spoon-shaped buckets is mounted around the edge of the Pelton wheel. Buckets are usually cast as one solid piece, which is necessary to avoid damage, such as fatigue failure. The buckets have splitters placed at the middle of them that divide the water jets into two equal streams. The divider splits the flow of water striking it and changes the direction of the water by almost 180 degrees. This allows the wheel to capture almost 100% of the water's energy. The water jet can reach speeds of up to 370 miles per hour, resulting in a very high rotational speed of the wheel. Pelton wheels can be operated with almost 3,000 rotations per minute. Pelton turbines can be installed horizontally as well as vertically. When mounted vertically, several nozzles can be employed, resulting in high turbine speeds.
Okay, this is our Pelton wheel. It was invented by a guy named Lester Pelton in 1878 in Camptonville, just down Highway 49, so if you came up that way, you went right through his hometown. Basically, Pelton made out like a bandit when he invented this. This is one of the more efficient water wheels in existence. A Pelton wheel like this one has about 87.5% efficiency. For a mechanical device, that is exceptionally high. The reason it's so good is there's two basic reasons. One, if you notice, it's actually an undershot water wheel. If you come up and see, the water is actually coming out from the bottom. If you think about a traditional water wheel where the water's coming in from the top, when it lands in those buckets, Then the buckets get, well, not only does it splash, the buckets then have to get carried all the way around. That creates a lot of friction. So one of the interesting things here is that it's an undershot water wheel. Water's coming from the bottom. But the real development that Pelton is known for, he changed the design of the cup. If you see the cup here, you notice there's actually this ridge down the center. As the water gets shot out at the water wheel, it hits this ridge here and splashes out to the side. That's important for a couple reasons. One, the water does not come back at the water source. That would be bad. But second, it also doesn't come back at the next cup that's coming down. That would slow things up. And also, when the water hits here, almost all the force is then used to push the cup through, not to bounce back. So he's using almost all the force of the water to be pushing this around. This particular one, if you notice, it has this wheel here. This is used to run all the pneumatic drills in the mine. You see there's a belt there. This one wraps around here, and you see the air compressor, that big cylinder behind you. This would be running all that. We have another Pelton wheel that you get to see a little bit later in the stamp mill that ran 4 levels of equipment. This particular one is 45 horsepower. It's run by our spring, which is about 300 feet up the hill. So it's under 300 feet of head, about 120 psi. We're not pressurizing it, we're not playing any tricks, it's just coming down in a pipe, then coming out here. I'm going to turn it on so you can see it. So I wouldn't be standing right there, it does spray a little bit.
You're going to let water in, is that the...
Yep.
Okay.
So basically, I'm now opening the valve.
Oh, see the swing of that.
Would it slow down once the belt came on with the friction?
Because right now it's a spinning
On March 14, 1908, into his 79th year of life, Lester Allen Pelton passed into the hands of God. He was cremated, and his remains were transported back to the town where he was born and lived as a boy. There he was placed to rest with his family in Maple Grove Cemetery on Mason Road, south of Vermilion. Monuments celebrating Pelton's life were erected in Camptonville, California, and Washington, D.C. One of his original wheels is preserved in Camptonville. Another is on display in the Smithsonian Institute in our nation's capital.